There was a group of men who didn't separate peace and war. They combined them. The Teutonic Knights weren't just fighters, they were disciplined, spiritual, and controlled. And that's why they were dangerous. Because when a man can control his mind and his direct aggression, he can become unstoppable. Most men today are either warmongers or pacifists, but the real power is in becoming assertive, the in-between of being a warmonger or a pacifist. Calm mind, violent capability. That is the warrior monk mindset. You don't need more motivation, you need integration. A warrior without his monk is destructive, and a monk without his warrior is stagnant. Both together equal powerful direction. Where are you at in your balance right now? Are you too aggressive or too passive? Welcome to the Warrior Monk Resilient Podcast. Each week we talk about different topics of warrior or monk, and today's topic, or both, and today's topic is the Teutonic Knight. And the Teutonic Knight was an elite order. The Teutonic Order was an elite order of knights that had like A+ above all the rest of the knights. So the Knights Templar, the Knights Hospitaller, and had some of the best soldiers within medieval Europe. Their physical conditioning, as well as their devotion to the Christian faith, made them one of the most dangerous warriors. In being the most dangerous warriors and controlled, calm, they were able to deal with pressure, rejection, and chaos, and able to be calm when they needed to act, and not reactive when grounded. This ties into the modern world in the idea that in the modern world we are dealt with a lot of pressure these days in social media, in options, in decisions to make, in having to figure out your whole life, in determining where one should go in their whole life, in structuring and planning, with also an anti-planning, anti-structure sort of sense to the way that we should deal with life, whether being more planning or just more intuitive. The same sense of rejection that it is now not just file one job application or to have to meet many different people along the way. In having to deal with like the 100%, we have lost the idea that we must meet a lot of people to find that 100% to build on with the group of people that we are trying to build with, to connect with, to do deals with. And in that creates a chaos of things in sales, in dating, in identity, in the amount of influence and pressure and rejection that we meet with people, with having to second guess oneself every so often about who am I actually when I'm around people, or when I'm with myself, or when I'm out there dating. How am I creating an experience or in sales, an experience where I'm moving the customer through a journey. I'm creating an experience that says, hey, I want to do this again. I'm maintaining the identity in myself that is solid no matter what comes my way, and not all at once. It's not to say that I am immediately infallible, unstoppable, unbreakable, unshakable. It is that I create an identity that is rooted in who I am as a person, the values, the beliefs, and the systems that create me. Now, this comes a lot to do with emotional control. A lot of men suffer from not having emotional control due to the way that we are raised as men. When I was a kid, I was not allowed to feel in certain ways, and also was taught to not like attention. In my family, we were not taught to like attention, and in some ways, in Christianity, being taught more to feel shameful and regretful and in some ways disgusted with the body that I inhabit, because it is not godly in some ways, that I am not like God, pedestaling God to the mortal body that I have, that God gave me. That God gave me this mortal body that I must take care of, that I must make a temple, that I must worship in certain ways to produce the body that is worthy of myself, not worthy of God, because God said, I gave you this body and I love this body no matter what you do with it. In the same way of having the empathy to love the body I have now, while also striving to carve out the body that I wish I had, or that the ultimate goal of the body that I'm trying to create, that feels good for me as well. If I am not happy with the way that I have treated the body that God has given me, then I must also strive to have more control over my physical body as well as my spiritual body. The physical, in looking at the physical and rejecting the spiritual, in the sense that I have this this triad of things of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And in some ways, in their interactions with each other, in my mind, also interacting with my body, if my body isn't moving, then my mind is at dis-ease to some extent. Because my mind is at dis-ease due to the nature of my body was meant to move, as well as my body was meant to accept the spirit that is within it. And in rejecting the spirit with the mind or the body, causing the amount of dissonance. So in creating more balance and acceptance of the different parts of me in this triad of mind, body, and spirit, that I'm able to have more emotions at control. Also in meditation, like the Teutonic Knights were very good at as being a monk in prayer, in vows, in fasting. Some of it was chastity, and I think in this modern age is like, okay, well, the chastity is to some extent true. I mean, in most religions, that you do not want, like, especially in Eastern medicine, you do not want to use all of your dantian and completely wipe it out. But we live in a very hyper sexual culture that also that is hard to pull away from the feelings of wanting to use that energy, and not in a constructive way. And I think that's where men get lost, because we're stuck in hypersexualized video games, drugs, porn, in the things that are eye-catching, that are impulsively grabbing, and also with the dissonance of having to maintain some sort of purity vow as a Christian to, well, the shame of using a different tool, because porn is nothing but a tool, to have a release of the emotion of lust, of love, or those things, and putting it in a bucket when it should be, that energy should be used for talking to women, of getting to build the relationship with the female, rather than just being satisfied with the state of watching videos, of magazines or pictures or whatever, AI now, that men or boys are settling for AI girlfriends over an actual woman, and that this is actually an incentive, that it is easier to talk to an AI girlfriend that I can program, that knows me, than to talk to women or to females and build on that skill set. I as an older person have had to deal with the regret of that, in the sense of, like, people tell you just work, just focus on school, don't interact with your classmates. All of these are possibly to prevent you from social pain, but there is no evasion of social pain, because the social pain gets exponentially more higher the amount of time that you spend, that I spend, not interacting with people and creating this vacuum of, well, I'll just go back to porn, video games, and drugs. And separating from that sobering effect. Whereas like when I was younger, it's like, okay, well, you could have all those things, right? You could have all those things, and the older you get, you start to wonder why. Like I think there was a Green Day song about it, like when the thing that we do as guys has lost its fun, then you're effing lonely. And it has never like come more full circle as like now getting older. And thinking about that and being fed up with the synthetic interactions that we have in the sense of like that, oh, well, I could just watch a video and be fine, or I could watch a picture and be fine, and not having that translate, and also pedestalizing that idea that this is so accessible. Like it's in some ways it's like, yeah, it was made for us, but in such excess, without a paywall, without any sort of thing to prevent somebody from just immediately reaching for it, has created a lot of problems. Same way that video games have a very low skill cap, that you can get your wins at a very low skill cap and cause you to and also not be dedicated to the idea of getting better at the video games, but give you easy wins that make you feel good, that do not translate into real life as well. All of this virtual not translating into real life, and now we're having to relate these virtual fundamentals to real life economics and the way that the job place is in some sense, whereas some people reject that. So in that sense of being a monk, in having vows and having rituals, of saying enough's enough, and staying disciplined with prayer, in the sense of like of having empathy and compassion for my friends, family, acquaintances, the places I go, in hope, in praying for their safety or for the protection of those things, or whatever, no matter if the person wanted it or not, because in hoping for or in praying for the peace and hoping for everyone's betterment in the future. As SGI, I prayed for the happiness of all humans, and in doing so, forget to also my happiness matters as well. In the happiness of all humans, not me excluded, in the happiness of all humans, including me. So, in those sense of those ideas, the Teutonic Knight was able to be more disciplined and also more concentrated in the way that they trained. And that goes into physical conditioning and the warrior mentality of a Teutonic Knight, of training to such a state to be able to wear armor, to be able to march for long periods of time, tolerate harsh conditions of having to starve or work in cold weather, and martial skills of knowing many different moves, weapons, from the double-edged sword to also adapting to things like the poleaxe and warhammers back when armor started getting thicker, as well as knowing all the rest of them: spear, crossbows, bow, dagger, any different type of weapon. Now, the weapons today aren't about actual weapons. They're about the tools that we use in our modern life. Like as a business owner, it would be in the sense of, what is my operations, what is my sales, what is my marketing tools, what are my logistics tools, what are my information tools. In mindset, that would be in the same way, or what are my tools in order to stay calm and not reactive to anything that happens. If I'm staying focused, if I'm staying focused on whatever task or outcome that I'm looking for, as well as having the understanding. I think that's also where that ties in with having monk training, to the sense of that I'm able to focus better on my training as well, because I'm not just deeply, like, there's a stage I think where it's like, oh, it's fun and those things, and the fun keeps you going, but after the fun ends, that what is going to keep you committed every step of the way when it doesn't get fun, and then trying to find out how to have fun with the moments that get really difficult, because not everything's fun about growing, about learning, about interacting with people that when you never interacted before. I used to be very socially isolated and an introvert. I think as a kid I was more extroverted, and that in having to push past my discomfort of having to talk to people after being burned so many times, and even that the idea of being burned and reframing what is it that is feeling like it's burned? What is it that this person that I think owes me something or has something that needs to meet this particular criteria, and how can I accept where this person's at, whoever it is, so it doesn't eat more pain in my life, and focus on training through pain in physical, like gym, in running, or in martial skill. Because one thing is to play a video game where you can't actually get hurt, where that the pain is only your ego. The pain is only your ego, and it's a fear of not just having the pain in your ego, but in your body, the scars that you have to build. The scars that you have to build, the conditioning that you have to build to push past where other people would say that this is as far as you can go. And in doing that is limiting you to actually how far you can go. Who's to say how far you can go when it is you. It's you who tells you how far you can go. In physical training, in anything, in how far can I go? A lot of people look to ask people and say, well, how far can I train? Oh, you can only train this thing because this skill is what's most needed right now. And in some ways it's true. But if that skill is most needed and it doesn't also fulfill you, then you are giving away your power to people who also perhaps finance you in some way, but at the same time leave you with something that you're not actually happy with and that they're only happy with. Now, I'm talking about this in the sense of like if you were a mechanical engineer and you wanted to, and their parents are telling you to be an electrical engineer, or if you wanted to be a cook and they told you that being a cook wasn't worth it because it didn't make enough money, so you should be a nurse, or any sort of redirection that prevents you from pursuing the dream that you actually want to pursue. Because at the end of the day, it's your life, and that you should have the amount of whatever will make your life feel good about the end of your story. What is it going to look like at the end of your life when you're at your deathbed and you think about all the times you listened to somebody else who told you that this was the right thing to do, and now you're at your deathbed and everything that everyone else told you to do was not what you wanted to do. How is that going to feel for you? When you are at the end of your life and everyone else has told you how to live your life and you don't feel like you chose any of your decisions. Wouldn't it feel better to choose the decisions that would lead you to the life that you wanted the most? That you could say, I can die happy because I lived the life that I wanted to live. And that also, in some ways, made the people around me happy. But me first, in the sense of me first. And so in some sense, it's like, well, it's selfish. But in the selfish of, I want to die knowing that I did exactly what I was going to do. So this is the end of the podcast. In dealing with pressure, rejection, and chaos, some things to think about, and in training, both as a warrior and monk. If you liked it, comment, subscribe. If not, no worries. Or just leave a comment anyways. Leave a comment, subscribe, and yeah, check out more. Happy Saturday.